The pandemic upended life as we knew it. A year in lockdown left many of us feeling lonely, disconnected, and out of control. Not surprisingly, the 2021 AI at Work study revealed that the amount of people who felt little to no control over their personal and professional lives has more than doubled in the last year, signaling that 2021 is proving to be a harder year than 2020. The past year has negatively impacted 80% of people, with many struggling financially, suffering from declines in their mental health, lacking career motivation, and overall feeling disconnected from their own lives. A notable 52% say they are struggling with mental health at work more in 2021 than in 2020. And 76% felt stuck in their personal lives, leaving them feeling anxious about their futures. Though collectively we've endured the pandemic together, how we've experienced the disruption to each of our lives varies and is quite personal. What remains true for most of us, however, is the overwhelming loss of control we felt. To help us understand the varied impacts of the pandemic, we've gathered a group of people to talk about how they're keeping their personal and professional lives together, or not. So hi, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I'd like to start with some quick introductions. So let's please share your name, where you live, and what you do for work.
Hi there, I'm Selena Coachman. I live in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I'm a recently new resident here, and I work as a VP of Talent Sustainability, Diversity, and Inclusion.
Good morning. My name's Danielle Rio, and we live here in Stockton, California, and I'm a registered nurse.
My name is Justin Rio. I am a firefighter paramedic.
And my name is Laura Kellerman, and I work for a nonprofit organization that supports military children.
So now each of you has a small whiteboard in front of you. I'd like you to write down a one-word answer to my first question. What area of your life has been most impacted by the pandemic to date? Personal or professional? So now that you're done, when you are ready, just hold it up so I can take a look. Interesting. Okay, so 3 personal, 1 work. Okay, so true or false, 2021 has been more difficult than 2020. And when you're ready, you can just show me the whiteboard. Curious about this one. False. Okay, true. False and true. Oh, this is so interesting. Okay. So now, for those of you who said 2021 was harder, why has it been a harder year?
Work has been more and more and more demanding. So.
Well, and then the health field has been impacted more with the vaccines and the mandates and all that. So that's changed a lot this year opposed to last year.
Yeah, I said 2020 was more difficult. And I think that weighing the both, I would say they both had their own trials, of course, but I think 2020 made me learn to adapt better to what was coming in 2021.
So now I just want to talk about this year's AI at Work study, and it found that the amount of people who feel little to no control over their personal and professional lives, just has more than doubled in the last year. Would you say that you agree?
I think that it's difficult both with hybrid or at-home work to separate the work environment from your personal life, as well as just everything that's going on. As you mentioned, your family's trying to take care of staying on top of, in my case, new jobs and performance and making sure that I am at the level that I was at my previous employer.
Yeah, both my husband and I now work remotely full time. I think we're both fortunate to work for organizations that have allowed us to do that. I know that's not the case for everyone, but it definitely blurs the line between personal and professional. At the end of the day, I have to take my work hat off and, put on my mom hat. I have an 8-month-old baby girl, and that can be a little bit challenging sometimes. That's been a little bit of a struggle to figure out how we're going to manage that while both maintaining our jobs full time.
Would you agree, Justin? Would you guys both feel like that blurred line has impacted you as well?
Absolutely. I mean, we have different challenges, being that our work was affected or our personal lives were affected, meaning we were drawn into work more so and drawn away from family. We didn't have the ability to, we're
work remotely from home.
Yeah, none of that stuff. We're in its face, and we're being asked to work longer and more, and so it's taking its toll on our personal lives in other ways. We also have those challenges we've got a 16-month-old, and she's pregnant.
Yeah, we had our first baby in the beginning of the pandemic in July.
So there's been a lot of challenges as far as that goes, but yeah, work has been very demanding for both of us.
Come to understand through the data and the research that anyone that is in the front lines is dealing with these added expectations of not only dealing with childcare and some of these other needs that have to happen within the day-to-day life of them working, and the fear of their health and safety. The pandemic has really forced us to be more honest in a way around our limitations and our priorities. The health and safety of ourselves and our families, like we just talked about, took precedence in a way that a lot of us haven't seen before. So do you feel like in any way that this honesty and transparency has shifted for you at work in any way?
We purposely make sure that we have mental checks with employees and make sure that the avenues that are available for them to reach out to someone are actually communicated.
As it's already been said before today, that mental health is becoming more and more important and being recognized within our field of work. That is being made available to us. I think a lot of our de-stressing happens, for me personally, at the firehouse, sitting around the table, talking to the other guys, because we are away from home 3-4 days a week, maybe one day off, and then I'm gone for another 4 days. So I'm gone most of the week. So yes and no. I mean, there's availability by phone, but as far as, the mental health and well-being of my family, I'm available by phone or by Zoom for them. So there are challenges there.
Yeah, I think that there's trickle effects of what's happening around every family. You see it impacting not just the person that's at work, and you see it within our home life, and everyone is sort of sharing all these emotions back and forth. And the fact that we just are working more, the pandemic has increased our workload about 30%, so per day to hit the same goals, because we're also dealing with feeling stressed out and burned out. And all of that just layers onto the, additional need for mental health supports, which I'm glad to hear is changing. And sometimes there are these benefits to going through something and swinging the pendulum really far in one direction and then bringing it back. I really just want to also, ask you one more question here. Have your priorities changed or stayed the same? Or are there things that you've learned from the pandemic that has, evolved in your sort of idea of what your future of work and life will look like?
I experienced a ton of change during the pandemic. When the pandemic first hit, I actually was living in London, and my husband and I had to learn to work remotely in a teeny tiny little flat together, which was interesting. So there was a ton of time for reflection, and we got to chat about what was important to us. And I actually was pregnant at the time as well. So there was an added layer of heightened emotions and stress. And we decided that as much as we've loved living in London and traveling, we wanted to move back home to the States to be near our family. So that realization came to us probably because of the pandemic. And so, I try to find the silver lining in everything. And now here we are living in St. Pete, Florida, right down the street from my parents. And although it's been a huge change, I think it's been for the positive.
I've seen and heard, friends make big choices through the pandemic, and quite a few of them have actually made big moves and moved closer to family. Because again, 20 months of facing your own mortality, something shifts. I want to hear from you, Danielle. How have your priorities changed since before the pandemic?
I would say definitely just focusing on being more present with my family. Sorry. And just really enjoying the time when Justin does come home, or when we do get to see our parents or anyone, just because at work, we are faced with helping people during this pandemic and seeing the awful things that are happening and just trying to be more grateful and present in the moment.
Yeah, I've noticed that gratitude has increased this last year. I think focusing on what we have versus what we don't have is I think it's a special skill that we've developed from the pandemic, and I hope it continues. So thank you. It was my pleasure speaking with you and really great insights that you shared with us today. As you heard from our group, the pandemic has had varied impacts, but some feel 2021 has been more difficult than 2020. The global workforce is tired of feeling like they have no control, and they're ready for a fresh start. Next week on AI at Work, we'll dive into how the global workforce is taking back control over their lives. What are they prioritizing? And what kind of support are they looking for from their employers?
I really need to now focus on my own life. What do I want that to be?
I really wanted to maximize the impact that I had in this world, in the workplace, as a woman, as an Asian American woman.
I was lucky enough to think, well, this has got a bit of time then to start my own business and take control of what I wanted to do.
Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.